So shrimp water, this wonderful, wonderful moment. We were like pulling out some frozen something from the freezer, whatever. We're like sitting in the studio working on some song, and I just hear Mike, and I'm like, ooh, like this is not good. And Sarah is like the sweetest, most like lovely person in the entire world, but I can just hear in her voice that
it's rare that she's frustrated at me at the capacity that we heard.
I could hear just like she sounded so stressed too. So I was like, oh my gosh, like what is going on right now? And she's like, I need you to like come over here like right now. And I was like, oh my God. And Mike comes back in the room after going out to talk to her, and he's like, dude.
So you gotta come check this. I think
you gotta come look at this, bro. And he's like, so like, remember the other day when we were like going through like the freezer and there was like that big bag of shrimp? And he shows me in Sarah's cup, and it's just a shrimp in a bunch of ice, because like the frozen shrimp that was in the freezer somehow got put in her cup with a handful of ice, and then she drank like the bottom of her water bottle with like a little bit of the shrimp water left.
I think the shrimp actually clogged the straw.
Yeah. Woo!
And she was like, but that's not even the funniest thing that you said is I was like, I'm sitting with Sarah, and I'm like, yo, dude, there's a shrimp in the water. And you're like, isn't that their whole thing? Welcome to the Mike Squires and Friends podcast. I'm your host, Mike Squires, and today I'm joined by my good friend, Cory Hales. Cory is a talented singer-songwriter from Boston, currently living in Atlanta. Cory and I talk about his upbringing, growing up in a school dorm, and taking the leap to move to LA to pursue his music. We also talk about a couple fun stories that we have together. You can support the Mike Squires and Friends podcast by subscribing on YouTube or downloading on your preferred podcast platform. The Mike Squires and Friends podcast is proudly sponsored by DistroKid. Looking to broaden your musical horizons as an artist? Discover DistroKid. With its smooth and rewarding music distribution platform, DistroKid offers unlimited uploads while ensuring artists retain 100% of their royalties and earnings. Join the community of over 1 million artists who trust DistroKid to distribute their music across major platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, TikTok, Tidal, and Instagram. Having personally used DistroKid since 2018, I can attest to its superiority amongst distribution services. Collaborating with fellow artists has become effortless, especially with the ability to easily send splits of songs, streamlining the creative process. With the DistroKid app, accessing these benefits is now more convenient than ever. Safely sign up or log in with two-factor authentication, upload releases on the fly, monitor earnings, or withdraw funds from your DistroKid bank. Stay updated on royalties through push notifications, effortlessly share hyperfollow links, manage account details seamlessly, and track streaming stats from Spotify and Apple. Additionally, explore Mixia for professional-grade mastering, DistroVid for music video distribution, and Instant Share for secure file sharing with collaborators, producers, and more. The DistroKid app is available on both iOS and Android. Download today from the App Store or Google Play Store to revolutionize your music career. Visit distrokid.com/VIP/Mike Squires to get 30% off your first year membership. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of Mike Squires and Friends. Cory Hales, welcome to the Mike Squires and Friends podcast.
Oh, it's amazing to be here, Mike.
How's everything been?
It's been amazing. You know, it's always good to be home. Well, I've been on the East Coast now for a second since moving to Atlanta, but it's good to be back up north, you know?
Yeah, dude. How would you describe yourself to somebody who's never heard of you?
I would say probably I've been going with this new term recently.
Okay.
I think like displaced lover boy.
What does that mean to you, dude?
I think I've been the same kind of wanting the same things, pursuing the same things, kind of on this little mission for a while, but I've been on a wild journey in the process, and I feel like I've always just been like just that far away from some of the things that I felt like I needed or wanted or was hoping for or whatever, you know? I feel like some of my music is about like the journey and like the process of, you know, balance of like having and not having some of those things.
Yeah, and I know you've been doing music forever because your grandma took you to music together when you were 5 years old.
What?
You weren't ready for that, dog.
5 years old is almost accurate. I was like 18 months. Like,
oh, wow.
Like, yeah, I was super young. So it was like...
What is music together for someone who doesn't know? I do my research.
Facebook is
Facebook,
crazy.
yeah, dude.
I don't know where that is on Facebook.
If you want to know, I watched an interview that you did 6 years ago with this dude in Harlem, and you slightly brought it
with
up.
Joe?
Couldn't tell you.
Probably Joe. Shouts out to Joe Hill. He's a great guy.
Yeah, but tell me more about Music Together, dude.
Oh, so I was raised by, I mean, obviously my mom and dad, but they both worked. So before preschool, I didn't do daycare or anything like that. I stayed with my two grandmothers. So one of my grandmothers had, at 18 months or 2 years or something like that, put me in this music program where it's like little kids with shaker eggs and people sitting in a big circle, you know, just doing like little kid songs and stuff. It was kind of a vibe looking back, you know.
But you've always been in music too, because I know in school you were in the choir.
Definitely in the choir. I was in a couple choirs.
Okay.
Yeah. It was like I was in the chamber choir, which is the traveling choir. So
I want to talk to you about that in a
year,
little bit.
They like go on a trip or whatever. And then I was in the gospel choir, which the gospel choir is like an elective, so it's not a class. It's like a after school type of thing. You go like once a week, but it's a vibe.
Can you explain your upbringing to people, because you didn't have the traditional, 3 schools that people went to?
No, so when I was 18 months, my dad took a job at a boarding school where he eventually became house head of a dorm, but I grew up inside a house, inside a dorm. So it was super interesting. And yeah, and people were from all over the world, who lived in the dorm. So kids were from, literally anywhere. You name it.
That's crazy. And how was your social circle growing up because of that?
It was weird. It was cool because I had some people who, they'd come back and they'd be oh my God, I can't believe, do you remember me? I remember you when you're 2 feet tall, like I got that growing up like forever from kids who were there when I was, just like a little baby, or kids in the dorm from certain periods of time, or faculty or whatever,
Yeah.
But what was the question?
So I was asking about your social circle.
Oh, the social circle, like my friends, like once I started going to school and like being old enough to like attend the school and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
What age did you attend? Like, what age did you start attending?
So kindergarten.
Okay.
Kindergarten through senior year of high school.
Okay, so you were there your entire
K through
schooling.
12. Yeah. So it was no kindergarten, middle school, lower school, high school. No, that was all. That was one thing.
And this is Milton Academy.
Milton Academy, yes. Yeah. Wild. And my dad teaches still computer science over there, and was a wrestling coach for a long time. Was my wrestling coach and my computer science teacher.
Yeah, how did that feel, having your dad?
It was crazy. I couldn't get away with anything.
Give me an example.
Oh, what? No.
You gotta
Give you an example of something I couldn't get away with.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Well, you didn't get away with it, so like.
Yeah,
so we can know, right? Because you didn't get away.
What? No, all right. Let me think of one. No, it would just be like everything, like anything. Teachers know so much more about what's going on campus at a boarding school. Like these teachers live in and around these kids. These kids are talking. The teachers are,
figuring it out.
They're right there. So kids gossip. The teachers end up hearing stuff, and then people would always share with my dad. Like I would be like talking to some girl for like 2 days, and then my dad would be like, "So, did anybody? You ever heard of this girl from your class? Her name might ring a bell. Da 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 da." And I'd be like,
"Do you feel like because you were living at this boarding school, because you were going to school and your dad was a teacher, and do you feel like you had a little bit lack of privacy because of this?"
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, my life was like 100% see through. Crazy.
Yeah, I can't imagine. But for that, you probably were a well-behaved kid overall, or no?
Super well-behaved.
I don't trust the way you said that, dog.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, not really. I guess. Well behaved enough. I never got in trouble.
Okay, moving on. Well, so I want to bring it back to music because for people that are listening, Cory's an incredible singer. But I know that we talked about the choir briefly.
Yeah.
And with the choir, you went to?
I went to Ireland.
Boom.
Yep.
Yeah.
I went to Ireland my sophomore year, I want to say. Yeah.
How was
With
that
the
trip,
choir,
dude?
it was super cool.
Can you explain like how that works? Like you just were practicing with the choir at Milton Academy, and then it was like,
So like every other year, the choir or the jazz program goes on like a big trip.
yes, and you were a part of both.
I was a part of both, yeah. So I could have gone to Prague my senior year with the choir, but I didn't go.
Was there a reason for it?
It wasn't really a reason, but a bunch of my friends weren't going. And honestly, at that point, like chamber choir felt like
Not your path.
it just didn't. I wasn't super passionate about it by the time I was getting like through my senioritis, and I wanted to be doing other stuff, and it was like, all right, I can sight read this stuff. I could show up. I mean, it sounds crazy and kind of like ridiculous to say, but I felt as a senior in high school, as a dumb kid, like I can show up, sight read this, and I never would have to come, and I would still sound. I would at least blend in. Like,
Yeah. And I don't know how hard it is being in choir because I've never been in an experience like that. Like, is choir like a hard thing? Like, how does it work?
well, I think knowing the music is important. If you can't, if you're worried about like sight reading the music when you read it, like you got to make sure you study it. But
Yeah.
if you can sight read it better than everyone else is remembering it, then
Then you're good.
yeah, it just wasn't. I think by the time I was around my senior year, just people weren't passionate about it, so it wasn't like fun. Like we
Yeah.
were good for a little bit, and we had some really talented people, and everyone was kind of like passionate about it because it's an elective course. Like you don't have to do it. You
Yeah.
know? So it's only the people that kind of want to be there. But morale was just low that year, I feel like,
Yeah.
Sometimes like
but
that.
for the trip that you did go on, were you competing? I know you did too, but I'm talking specifically with the one with the Chambers Choir.
No, we weren't competing.
Is it just like a performance?
Yeah, it was a big string of performances. So we sang in like the Gothic church at Kilmore Abbey,
Okay.
which is kind of like pretty cool. We sang in a bunch of big name churches out there. It was really beautiful. Like I'm not super passionate about like religious history. It's not like one of the things I'm like crazy for or anything, but it was fascinating to just go and see everything and be like, wow.
Especially at that age too, because I mean, how does that feel where it's like, you know, K through 12, you are in this school, like kind of seeing the same thing for that duration of your life to then, you know, getting out there and like, even I know with the jazz band, you guys went to South Africa.
Yeah, we did, which was amazing.
Yeah.
That
You know
was
what I mean?
like,
Can we talk about that trip?
yeah, 100%. That was like super pivotal musical moments for me, for sure. And I had no idea that it was going to be like that on my trip out there. It was incredible. Like we did a bunch of homestays, so just being able to kind of share experiences with different people and just be able to get outside of exactly what you're saying. Like I grew up in this one environment and I was just like totally somewhere different, just going to school with somebody, staying at their house. Like it was pretty cool. And then also just there were certain periods of time where it was like, it's like you have a slight language barrier with somebody, but you're singing and they're playing the saxophone and you can make a joke or like be like competitive or encouraging or whatever without saying any words, just by kind of having this musical conversation with somebody, which was just, it gave me a sense of like, wow, like this moment that I'm sharing with you, whether I'm making music with you, I'm making music and you're consuming it. Like when we take the time to be together to like have this moment where we're like, whoa, we're all here experiencing this thing, and it takes us away from
everything else,
whatever we have going on in our day. And it's like, we're here together. Like that's like the thing that makes music so amazing. And I felt that like in such a surreal way when I was there, and my dad got to like experience some of those things, and it was really powerful and so cool.
You've been doing music your whole life up until that point, but is that like the music you think you felt, or the moment you fell in love with music?
I think it made me like take the career seriously. I had always loved and wanted to do music. I always wanted to be, I want to be a rock star or whatever, you know. I always wanted that, but I think that was the moment where I was like, no, like I'm passionate about this.
Yeah, and starting to get into it as a career, I know you would take on a lot of gigs.
Oh yeah.
And then you would take on some gigs at the Chestnut Street Grill.
Oh, I just played there the other day, my guy.
Amazing, dude. So you've been there for a hot second, dude.
Yeah, shouts out to Emily. She's like the best.
Yeah, dude, I was looking at I was going through all your socials and everything, but you were there when you were like a lot younger too. Like those are some of the...
Way younger, yeah.
You know what I mean? So at what point do you start getting into like doing gigs like that?
So my senior year of high school, for my senior project and afterwards, so I don't know, some people have senior projects, some people have like everyone gets out early, graduates early as a senior. I don't know, people do it different in different places, but my high school, for the last like 2 months of the year or something like that, you just come up with something that you want to spend all of your time doing. You make a schedule to where you're doing it for 35 hours a week or something like that, and then you have your advisor, and then you have another person who you ask to come oversee your project, and you go do something. So I made an album for my senior project, but part of the thing that I did was Monday through Friday, I played every day at lunch for 2 hours in a sandwich shop. And I did that for like 2 years, Potbelly's sandwich shop in Braintree.
Yeah, and I think this goes to, because I was thinking about this on the ride over, is that with music, there's so many different ways like careers can be shaped. You know what I mean? And like how one artist can make money isn't exactly how another artist makes money. And like, you know, because you're doing a lot of like gigs where you're doing like acoustic performances, right?
100%, yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's been like something that's like helped like basically fund the
whole journey. Totally. That's been my bread and butter of what I do. Me and my guitar, and please sponsor me, Bose. Shouts out to Bose. I use a Bose L1 system. I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, you got to put it out there, dude.
Let's go. Come on, Bose. Where are you at?
One dude from Bose is just like really like tuned in, and he's just like,
yeah, dude.
Send that email right now, 100%. Dude.
100%.
But so from what point after you leave school do you decide to like really jump into music? And what's like one of the first things you do once you get out of school?
So really so I applied to a couple schools, but before I heard back from anywhere, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to go. Like, at least not next year. And
what was your decision for that?
It was really that my dad kind of was like, look, my voice coach at the time was pushing me like, hey, you should move to Atlanta. Actually, which is what he said, like straight out of high school. He was like, you should move to Atlanta. You're a singer. They appreciate singers. You'll be appreciated, but different. You won't be just like everybody else. People will like you. You should do it, bro. That's where you should go. And I was like, yeah, but I don't have the money to like be like ready to leave home, because I was like, you know, like 17. So I was kind of like, let me figure out like something in between to get myself like,
yeah,
you know,
going.
Like let me make sure like I can maintain a certain level of responsibility before I like just go to Atlanta and like have to come home and like embarrass myself or something.
Yeah.
So I ended up moving to Charleston, went there, did some weddings. My friend had a wedding company. Shouts out to Taylor. Has a wedding company. DJs at Charleston. And we did some weddings, and I was working selling solar and doing a bunch of random stuff, stacking up money to move out to LA, and then I eventually moved to LA.
Yeah, before we get into LA, because I want to talk to you about that story, I want to pull it back to your voice coach.
Yes.
Because you had the same voice coach as Steven Tyler.
I did, yeah.
How did that come to be?
So I had this is actually a crazy thing, but one of my dad's best men's brothers ran or was one of the founding members of this label in Boston called Q Division.
Okay.
And Q Division, I don't know. I didn't, there's not like a ton of music industry in Boston. So I was kind of, I don't know, there is, but I wasn't like connected to it or aware of it. So when I heard of it, I was like, oh, whoa, that's crazy. My dad like knows somebody. This is wild.
Yeah.
And he put me in contact with this voice coach and was like, hey, look, like he's the best. Hopefully, because I told him that I know you'll be able to get some lessons. And I was like, let's go.
Yeah. And so you start doing voice lessons with your voice coach.
Probably like sophomore year of high school, probably.
When do you drop the Free Fallin' cover, the Tom Petty one?
I had been, that's so funny. That was like, if you had somehow known this, I'd be scared. But there was this thing at my high school where we'd always get together and have like a mini concert. It was a beatnik, is what we would call it. And we had this old library where it's like kind of 2 stories. People would be kind of sitting on the top and then all these couches. And you get there and play a little intimate show. And every time people would be like, play Free Fallin'. And I think it was like halfway a joke at me. But I loved it. So like I always played it. I've been playing that song like, that was one of the first songs I really started playing. I've been doing that since probably like middle school.
Yeah. I want to pull it back to LA now because then you take the trip to LA. Can you explain how you're feeling before you take this trip and then what it was like getting to LA?
Yeah, I was hyped. Like I was just extremely hyped to go to LA. And during COVID, I'm working a job at Milton Academy, the high school that I went to. And, I'm in the car with my dad like 6:40 every morning, which I love my dad, but after like moving away from home and now it's like COVID and I see him every day and we're in the car together at 6:40 every day. It was just like such a lifestyle adjustment.
That was a good way to describe it.
And I was like, I just can't wait to get to LA. Like I have all this music stuff I want to do. I'm also like ready for the world to be back open. And I've been a gigging artist like since I started making decisions for myself, which isn't that long, but since I've been doing that, that was like how I made my money, how I kind of made everything work. And when COVID happened, it really made it hard to do that.
Yeah. What did you see in LA?
So I had a good friend who really wanted to go. And I was convinced that if I went to LA, that I would be able to just, book some different times and studios and have my friends who were producers out there just be able to have like some sort of a community, that I didn't feel like I had at the time in Boston. Because even like a lot of my friends from high school and stuff, like they ended up going to colleges out of state. Like everyone kind of went all over the place.
Sometimes they probably didn't continue music.
Yeah, and most of these kids, they ended up pursuing other stuff. So
yeah. But you got to tell me the story. I know the story personally, but you got to tell the story. Yeah, the trip of you going to LA.
It was so crazy. So first of all, I had this car that was my absolute baby. It was a 2009 Audi A4 Quattro, which was absolutely slammed to the ground. Nice black wheels, stretch tires on them, like very low to the ground, like might just disgust certain people, but it was my thing. I loved it. 6-speed manual. and I drove it from Boston to Los Angeles with like every single piece of everything that I owned in the car, which is terrible life choice. But it worked. It worked out great. But during the trip, I bottomed the car out in Chicago, and I end up, for a series of unfortunate events, I end up staying in Chicago for like 2.5 months ish, kind of stuck there between Boston and LA. And then on my trip from Chicago out to LA, which is, 2.5 months after my Boston to Chicago trip, I am cruising. We're making great time, me and my friend caravanning out there. So he's riding his Jeep behind me, and we get just past the nearest off-ramp gas station, see this sign that's like 125 miles to the nearest gas station, cruising along probably like 5 minutes after I see this sign, because I was like laughing like, oh, like it would suck to have something stupid happen out here. You're 120 miles from the nearest gas station. The red light shows up, bow, battery light. I'm like, ooh, my alternator has to be dead. So I'm like looking through the book, and I'm like, oh my God, my alternator's dead, and I have no idea how much juice my battery has. So
What happens?
I'm like praying, and I'm just about to get to this exit, right? Like 100 miles later, and all the lights on the car are like turning on and off, and like the car keeps like making weird noises, and like the power steering is like cutting on and off. So like certain times it's like harder to turn the steering wheel, I'm like, yo, the car is just like freaking out, like just, oh my gosh. So I eventually, the second I get off on the off ramp, I just put it in neutral, and I roll like all the way into like the edge of the parking lot, and I just like pull the emergency brake and walk in, and I'm like, oh my gosh, please, do you have an alternator for my car? And they were like, no. I'm like in the middle of nowhere, Utah right now. They're like, yeah, we don't have an alternator for an A4 in the entirety of Utah right now. We could get one in like 4 days. I'm like, absolutely not staying in the middle of nowhere, Utah for 4 days. I'm supposed to be in LA tonight. So long story short, yeah. I end up buying 3 car batteries from there and 3 car batteries from another spot down the street. And I just keep switching out the car batteries. Like I drive them until they die and the lights turn off and the car feels like it's about to like shut off. Now I just like pull over on the side of the highway, put the other battery in, and keep going. I did that, and I changed a battery. Literally, like, my car died, totally came to a dead halt on, I want to say, I was like right in like Pico Union or something like that. I have no idea where I'm at. Like, I've never been here before, but I'm like, I missed the exit that I was supposed to get off at because I was living like in MacArthur Park area. And when I got off, I was like, I kind of like ended up in Pico Union the first time I got off because I didn't know where I was going. I messed up. And I had to change my car battery there like at like 2:30 in the morning. Like I have no idea what I'm doing. I changed that battery. I'd already done like 4 or 5 other battery changes that day. So I was like, bam, had my power drill. I was like, boom, 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 put the new battery in, got home.
Your friend's following you the whole time?
Whole time, yeah. But at this point, like, I'm like, yo, just get to the house. Like, we're both there. He stopped for gas. I had to stop. We were like, but I was like, I'm not going to stop because if I stop, I'm worried that the car might not turn back on. So I'm just driving these batteries until they're toast and not to stop in the car.
Yeah.
But then I get there and all of the things that we thought were going to be like open still, like the Target and the Walmart and all these things, all closed somehow. Like it's still COVID, so nothing has its real 24-hour hours and stuff. So even by the time we got there, we didn't have beds or an air mattress or anything. So like I get there like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. Our landlord was so nice. Shouts out Monica. Stayed up super late to let us in, and then I slept in the garage in the car.
Dude, I mean, after that long trip to sleep in the car, like, are you still hyped or are you just like,
Dude, I was so hype. I was like, oh my God, I can't even believe it. We're here.
That's good though, because you would hear a story like that and you feel you would lose some sort of like morale from that. But the fact that like you just were like still stoked to be there after all that.
Well, I got my money back for the batteries for one. That was sick. I don't know how, but I did. I got full refund. It was like $1,000 with the car battery. So
I mean, that's a big deal,
clutch.
dude.
And I was like, look, I've been trying to get out here. Finally here. This is great.
Yeah. So what's one of the first things you did in LA besides sleeping in your car in the garage?
Yo, I think one of the funniest stories about just my whole trip to LA is like moving off the corner of MacArthur Park and not knowing that you're moving off the corner of MacArthur Park is crazy.
Can you paint the picture of MacArthur Park for the people?
Like it's not like a super like nice area. It's pretty crowded with like homeless people, and a lot of people are pretty, you know, like dependent on substances or, and it's unfortunate because LA kind of like herds the homeless population in certain ways where they just kind of all end up in the same place, and it's just, it's not a pretty thing. You know what I mean? And you kind of have that layered with just some other elements that make it kind of like, whoa.
It's a tough area.
Tough, yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, what are some of the music things you're getting into?
Fire taco trucks, though, like insane.
yeah. We can't talk about all of that. We got to bring up some
like
good.
Insane taco trucks.
Yeah.
And there's this guy on the corner who just cultivated like the most beautiful orchids ever, and they were a great price.
Were you getting a lot of orchids at your place?
Yeah, I love orchids. I have a tattoo of orchid.
Oh wow, I didn't know that about
It's like
you.
one
dude.
of my favorite things. I love orchids.
Is it because did you have the tattoo prior to this or after this?
I did.
Oh.
Yeah, there's actually this crazy thing where I didn't know this, and some people might not know this, but I was talking with my grandmother. She had all these like dead orchids in her house, and I was like, "What is wrong with you? Like, why?" And she was like, "No, these orchids aren't dead. Most people don't realize, but like if you just take care of these for a long enough time, like they bloom again. But most people, they don't care enough to ever get them back in bloom." And I was like, whoa, orchids are sick. You're sick, grandmother. This is dope.
No, that is
and
cool.
she loves them, so I'm like, yeah.
I love when tattoos like have meaning too, because I feel like I talked to a lot of my friends who are like, I just got it because like, yeah, I mean, just didn't.
I feel you. Yeah, like I only have a couple tattoos.
Yeah,
and they all definitely the ones that I have, like they're all super meaningful. But I strive to one day have enough tattoos to where I can just feel great just picking a random tattoo and being like, I want that on me now. I strive to be there.
Yeah. No, I
strive to not care that I just picked that off the wall and put it on my body.
Yeah. We're going to take a random side quest. Did you meet Danny DeVito?
Danny DeVito? No.
Damn, dude. Facebook lied to me, dude.
Oh, dude, it was probably
one of your homies.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, one of your homies like trolled me. Yo, isn't that insane? That like your homie made a post probably half a decade ago that trolled me in the year 2024, dude. Is that not the craziest thing? But at least you know what I'm talking about. So can you kind of explain it? Yo. So I don't seem like a complete nut for bringing this up.
No, just like. Me and my friend group in high school, like, watched an insane amount of It's Always Sunny. So, it just was somehow It's Always Sunny related. I don't remember exactly what that is, but it has to be that.
Moving on.
No, I did meet some cool people, though. You want to know the coolest person probably that I met in Boston? I met... Macky.
I was hoping you were going to say Marky Mark. Listen, when I think of Boston, dude, I was
it was like the most Boston thing ever, too.
Talk to me about it.
Dude, it was like, I've never told anybody this story, except for like some of my friends. But so one of my dad's students, he had gotten these tickets to the Celtics through one of his friends. And they were playoffs, it was like Bulls, Celtics, had to be. I want to say it might have been 2008
Yeah, what game is this?
in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It must be one of the early games.
Okay.
First couple games, probably like. I think we were higher seeds, so it was probably one of the first 2 games.
Okay.
Maybe game 2.
Okay.
But Derrick Rose was playing, so I don't know. Terrible with years, and I don't
Someone
know.
will figure it out.
Somebody will tell me why I'm a bad Celtics fan right now. But yeah, so I'm like a little kid. I'm screaming my head off, and somebody from the floor like hears me somehow, like from the nosebleeds, and like goes up and like finds my dad, and is like, "Hey, is this your son?" And he was low-key defensive. He was like, "Yeah, it's my son. Like, what do you need?" And he's like, "No, like, you don't understand. I can hear him like from the floor." And my dad was like, "What are you talking about?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, so my wife is, pregnant and tired. We're about to go home. We won these tickets in the Celtics raffle, like the Celtics lottery thing. I'm going to get you. Do you guys want to come down to the floor and take our seats for the second half of the game?" So it was like the second row right back from the floor. And we sit there. And at the time, I sit down and I'm screaming. I'm heckling everybody. Like, I'm just heckling people. Like, I'm an obnoxious little kid. Like, classic Celtics fan vibes, you know what I'm saying? And this guy next to me reaches over and he shakes my hand. And he's like, it's great to see somebody whose nose isn't in their phone or some newspaper or something, and someone who really cares about this game. It's great to meet you. What's your name? And I was like, "Oh, I'm Cory." He's like, "Oh, nice to meet you. I'm Mark."
Wow.
And I was like,
"It's not your good
and I didn't even know like who it was at the time. Like as a kid, like he looked familiar, but I was like, I wasn't putting it all together. And afterwards we left, and my dad was like, "Do you know like who that was or whatever?" And kind of like put it together for me. But that was probably the coolest person I like actually met.
That's actually a really cool story too, dude.
Random.
Yeah, no, I'm glad I asked the Danny DeVito question because it led us there, dude.
No, that was great.
Yeah, no, that was like a good, like I passed you the ball and you just like dunked it on that one, dude.
Yeah, 100%.
So let's pull it back to LA. So
can I take a sip of this? Is it gonna? This is a cut. This is a cut.
No, I'm not cutting this, dude. We're just gonna. I'm zooming in, dude. How long are you in LA for?
Oh man, I think it was like 3.5 years.
Yeah. What's some of the things that you did during your time there to like with your career and like connecting with people?
I was doing a lot of songwriting. I was working with this guy Olivier Basell, and out of his studio, which was super awesome. Bella, awesome artist. Friend Shaw, super dope. Bunch of dope writers, bunch of cool producers who were out there.
How'd you connect with all of them?
Honestly, I think Olivier was trying to get a beat to Annoyed.
Okay.
And then Pace connected me with him because I was looking for beats. And I was like dying for production too at the time. I was like, "Yo, I need anything. Just please. I need
Send me something,
Send
dude.
me something. I need to make stuff." And so he was like, "Yo, yeah, I got you. I'm gonna send you a pack." And then he was like, "Yeah, about the pack. I had something come up and we need writers. Do you want to write?" And then just kind of that was how we started working and started writing. And it was great.
Yeah, I want to talk to you actually about connecting with Pace because for those listening and saw the Annoyed podcast, Cory is managed by the same person that Annoyed is managed by, Pace.
Yes.
Yeah, so how did that happen?
So actually, through one of my gigs that I was playing this gig Sunday mornings, senior year and a couple years after. Every Sunday morning at like 8:30, I had to show up at this random in Framingham diner, and I would sing for 3 hours. And I met this guy who knew Pace, this guy named Marcus Wright, great guy. And honestly, just kept up with him for a couple years, and then eventually had some music to release, different stuff, Eventually he was like, "Hey, I feel like you might want to meet Pace." And then I drove down, and at Huff's house, Actually, that was Huff had a setup over at his house and Pace.
And explain who Huff is for the people listening too.
So, and Chess was there too, which is crazy. Chess came with me.
You got to explain all this.
So it was like a crazy like group of like everybody who I ended up just working and living with were like all somehow in the same room, and none of us knew that our whole future was about to just be like overlap. But Chess was my roommate who I moved out to LA with. And I met Pace like right before I ended up moving out to LA. And Huff is who I currently live with in Atlanta, and one of my writing partners who I write a bunch of my work with.
Yeah, amazing, dude. Cool. So then you meet with Pace, and then Pace is like, need to work with you, dude.
Pace was basically like, yo, this stuff is pretty dope.
I like what you're doing, kid.
Would you like a manager? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what I want. Like, I don't know anything. I was like, this is about to be my first music. I was like kind of prepared to do it. And I was like really excited that I had somebody who wanted to be like involved in my career, but I was just like, I have no idea what this means. And the coolest part about Pace is he really was like, okay, yeah, I mean, like, I understand, like, that's cool. Like, we can still work. We can just like whatever, you know, like we don't have to lock anything in. Like, if you want me to just disappear, that's cool. But like, let's just start working. We just kind of like started building a relationship and just building trust, you know, as like human beings, which is the coolest part about the relationship is it's all really built in like an actual like human to human relationship where we want the same things, you know?
Yeah, what's a quality you look for when you're working with people?
A quality that I look for when I'm working with people. I think you need different types of people on your team for sure. The main thing is you gotta have a goal. Like, our goals have to be pretty much aligned. What you want has to be good for me if we're going to be on the same team. Yeah. And what I want has to kind of be good for you.
Yeah, otherwise it's just not going to like...
Yeah, just like the timing and synergy of everything is like the most important. Because usually it's not like, I want the most caring, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, that's great. But at the same time, it's like, are you going to do what you need to do for this thing? Like that...
Are you going to contribute to the school project?
Yeah, like, do I have faith that when we do this, like, we're all just going to show up and just fire on all cylinders? Like, if we can do that and we can get along, that's awesome. Everything else is just like, we can figure that out, you know?
Yeah, what's a moment of success you've had?
A moment of success. I've had a bunch of moments of success, but honestly, I think one of the dopest moments really was your show, bro. Was so fun, dude.
Yeah,
that
we did
was
good. We
so
did good.
Fun, man.
All right, we gotta tell the people. It's in my notes. I was gonna bring it up.
Was there something else I was supposed to say?
No.
Was there another achievement?
No, that one's a good one, dude. But we gotta paint the picture. So this is 2022.
Yes.
2022. I get an opportunity to open up for Flo R through my homies Ilario, Ross, Chet over at Parachute Concerts.
Yes, sir.
At the Hayes Stanford Food Festival, my hometown. So it's a big deal. And for my set, so I'm a music producer, right? So for my set, I put together the set where I brought out all my artist homies that were able to make it and come perform. So Cory, who's sitting next to me right now, came out. We did our song Constellation. Good vibe, big hand waver.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of video proof that was happening. But yeah, no, that was a really cool weekend. But yeah, I'm glad you made the trip, dude. That was like a lot of fun.
The funniest part of the weekend is a solid 1 to 2 out of every 3 people who I saw thought I was Pimo.
Which is even more insane because Pimo was there as well.
He was also there. Yeah, he was also there. Yeah,
that's actually crazy. Mad funny, dude.
That was the first time I'd ever met him too, and I was like, "What?" And now we're the same though.
Yeah, it makes sense though because like you know, at the time, like we were very like aligned and
100%.
everything.
No,
You know what I
100%.
mean?
No,
So
it's totally, it totally tracked.
That's crazy. Like,
but it was hilarious.
that is mad
The
funny.
number of times that I had to convince people I wasn't Pimo was like probably the number one conversation I had that day.
Dude, I mean, Ian, who just was here and you saw, he was like, no, he knew you were Cory from Constellation.
He did.
So he's the one.
So
he's like
point.
the one, like out of the three, he's the one that like.
Yeah.
No, but that was a good time too. And like, I mean, that whole weekend was good. Like, I could talk about, but you know, I got to meet Flo R, and like,
100%.
He actually had very kind words to say. I remember like sneaking over there because everyone's like, yo, you have to stay on this side.
100%, bro.
And I just like full sent it across the stage and I just like stood by and I was just like, yo, Flo, nice to meet you, dude.
May it all pay off.
Yeah, and I was just like, I opened for you. He's like, I knew. Because he actually followed me that morning too.
Yeah.
So he did know that. So he's like, no, I know. And I was like, oh. I was like, yeah, dude, I'm just trying to level up like you. And there's a video of this somewhere too. And he's like, you will. You'll be better. And I was like, damn, Flo R, that's crazy that you said that. I'm looking up right now because he was mad tall compared to me.
Oh, yeah. Especially when he was on those dudes' shoulders.
Oh, yeah.
I have
dude.
like a silly picture of me like in the pit, like kind of like in that little area in the front.
Yeah.
And he's like on shoulders, like going across the stage in front of me. And it's just like me and then like Flo R like way up here.
Yeah. No, and the one thing about that, I mean, like outside of like us being able to perform and like, you know, do our set, Flo R is an incredible performer. You know what I mean? Like that performance
he absolutely
was
shut
like,
it down.
Yeah, that was like one of the most nuts product. Like he had it so on lock. It was like
He was
insane.
going absolutely bonkers too. He was going so hard, like
Yeah, but that was like a string of like a weekend too, because not only did we do the show that night, we shoot the Constellation music video, which is nuts to
Insane.
think of in hindsight. Like,
Yeah.
can you paint the picture of like us shooting the Constellation music video?
So first things first, for those of you who don't know about Doc Martens, you're not supposed to buy a pair of Doc Martens and then wear them for like 15 hours straight when you buy them. This is something I did not know prior to the Stanford Food Fest. But I bought a pair of Doc Martens, my first pair. I love them very, very much. At the end of that day, I absolutely hated them because they were so painful to break in. After like 7 hours, I was like, oh no, this is absolutely insane. I had already like performed, but I didn't have any other shoes with me whatsoever. So I was like, all right, this is what we're going to wear. And then after we're done with the show, we're going to go film this music video. My feet are killing me. It's pitch black.
Yeah, we stayed up all night.
All night. It's like...
It had to be like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. Like we were up
That
really
I don't know
late.
what that video was, but I was like, Mike, what time is it? Or you were like, Cory, what time is it? I was like, dude, it's like 4 in the morning.
Yeah,
dude.
I do know the video you're talking about.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you were wearing like a full yellow hazmat suit.
A woodbreaker suit, dude.
Yeah. And I was like 30% sure we were getting stalked by animals as we were like walking through the woods in the pitch black to try and film some Constellation long exposures.
It was slightly peaceful and slightly terrifying.
Yeah. It felt like that like cabin in the woods gone wrong moment, but before it went wrong.
Yeah, and any lighting that you see in that video was legitimately like the headlights of the car.
Oh, yeah, that was 100% the case.
Yeah, so I mean, it's good. And like, you know, Cory, I want to run it back even further because
Let's run it back.
listen.
Let's run it all the way back.
I know this is the Mike Squires and Friends podcast, and I don't want to come off as a bad friend.
Yes.
How did we meet, dude? I was like really
Dude.
racking my brain to figure this out.
Dude, what's really crazy is like we had like a whole like halfway relationship before we like met.
Well, so can you explain this to me? Because like, you've seen Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
You know how there's like that character that just like randomly appeared in the season and like everyone was treating him like he was there the whole time?
What's the name of this character, Mike?
I can't say it on camera.
Mike. Mike.
It's Mr. Poopy Butthole.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, dude.
All right, hold on. I'm about to. What did Rick Ross do? He said, hold on. I'm going to use the bathroom. I got to take my coat off when I come back. It never comes back.
Dude,
Nah,
that's
yo.
crazy. Dude, if you love to take it back, that would be like the most devastating end to a pod ever. I'd probably be here for at least like 20 minutes before I realized what happened.
Yeah, because that would be so out of pocket for me to leave.
It would be out of character too. I would just like
It
wouldn't
would just
expect
be
that.
like, whoa, like what happened? You'd
Yeah.
probably call me like, did I hurt your feelings? Like,
and you'd be like, yeah,
No.
maybe, no. But wait, okay. But like, how did we meet?
No, like we didn't really meet. Like,
are we internet friends? Is that what happened?
We were kind of internet friends because
that's most of my friendships actually.
Yeah, because I saw you kind of in and around the Annoyed stuff,
and I was doing a lot with Annoyed at the time. Probably.
Yeah, and you guys had just done that one where you guys were like had the little
the car.
Yeah, the car with the drift joint, and then there was like the truck where you're on top of the truck.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I can't remember what's that song called, man.
Love for This.
Yes, bro, that song's fire.
Yeah, no, that was a good one.
You guys had just done that, and then you guys did some other stuff. But
yeah, no, I've worked with Annoyed for
honestly,
a hot
bro. Like, just think I started to see like more of your Instagram stuff, maybe because I had more and more mutuals from out here as I started coming out here. Because I was working with a number of different producers.
There's so many people I've connected through from the internet, and I've just like talked with them so much online and like FaceTime them before I met them that by the time I met them, I was just like, I felt like I'd been friends with that, like had known them for years, but like, the internet's a crazy thing, dog.
It was also COVID, so it was like, we're all lonely.
Well, I would like, when you're in the industry, like, how do you connect with people? Like, do you reach out to people a lot? Like, how do you make new relationships?
Honestly, I think it depends. Like every good relationship I have that I've really like had for a long time has been through somebody I've known, I think.
So it's always been like a mutual friend or something.
That's not quite true.
Okay.
There are some exceptions.
Yes.
But honestly, like a lot of people, it's just word of mouth,
Yeah.
Especially I was gigging. I was like, I'm going to go play at a bunch of random places. So people kind of, by me injecting myself into random neighborhoods and bars and restaurants and all that, I ended up kind of having some people that kind of found me because I was just like in their face. And then some people I met through friends, and then some people I met through, programs. I did this program at Berkeley in high school, which was like the 5-week summer program. And I have a bunch of music friends that I made when I was, 13, 14, 15, 16, something like that I still talk to like on a regular basis. And it was a bunch of kids in the program, so I don't know. Random different things.
Dude, I'm definitely a psychopath compared to you, dude. If you've seen somebody on your For You page, I've probably sent them a message. You know what I mean? Like, I try to connect with, like, everybody, dude.
Sick.
And, like, I fire off so many messages to people. And I think because of that, I've, like, especially with this 50 States project, I'm, like, even more reckless because I am just, like, hammering, like, yo, what state are you from? Like, or I've done the research, like.
Bro, how many, like, inquiries do you think you have sent to like separate artists?
It's too many, dude. Oh, it's a lot, dude. Like, it is a lot.
Like over 1,000.
Oh, for sure, dude. Like, for sure. Dude, some days I would definitely get like at least 50 to 100 off. You know what I mean? Because I'd like really sit down and like, and especially if I'm hyper focused on a state too. But like a lot of the times I'll reach out to a couple and really hope that those people,
Yeah, we'll like pull through for you.
Yeah, but
that's
dude,
intense,
I've reached out to and I've even connected with artists outside of the U.S. too because I just was unsure where they were from. So I'd be like, "Oh, where are you from?" He's like, "Oh, I'm from Ireland. Like, I would have done this if I like when you do the Ireland version of this. Like, let me know."
Dude, are you gonna do the world version, bro?
Let's just get through the U.S. dude. Let's
make a song with somebody from every state in
the world?
every continent.
I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say the idea hasn't crossed my mind, but let me just get through this first one first.
You're insane,
bro. Like, I mean, I don't think.
Dude, am I killing your whole like rollout for this, bro?
No.
Dude, everyone.
No, you're good, dude. But I want to talk to you about live performance because we just touched on it, like with the flow ride and like your gig. But like, I know live performance is important to you, and I know you have thoughts on it. Yeah,
man. I love performing.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the places like when we touched on that thing before about music, where it's like we all share this moment and like we're all here together. Like that really is part of what fuels me to do this, and it's like. That's the epitome of when you have that moment,
Yeah. And I want to talk to you about some of your records too. I want to talk to you because we haven't even touched on like your records, dude. You got so many fire records.
Thank you, bro.
Let's talk about Falling Down. So how did Falling Down come to be?
Man, Falling Down, I have a hard time with like the timeline of some of these records because I have a hard time remembering exactly when I wrote them because it was a long time between when I wrote and ended up releasing them because it was during COVID and I was trying to figure out how to like produce songs with my friends and people I knew and get people to play different stuff. But Falling Down was about like this relationship that I had, which I was in a pretty long relationship, like almost 5 years long. And it was like going through just like crazy, like rocky periods of time while we were both going through just like life events and growing up and growing pains and all these different things. And it was kind of about how like when you have just a bad experience, how the things that come after that can actually just be like an eye opener for you. You know what I mean? Like you could get out of a certain energy that you've been feeling stuck in. And then although that whole period of you having to transition out of and away from that energy and that person that was giving you that energy was tough. But like the things that are happening and being conscious of like what's going on during that period of time is like, that's when you can really find like yourself and it'll help you like figure out how to like make sense of this whole thing. You know what I mean? That was kind of what it was about. It's a crazy song.
Yeah, I think, you know, when you go through tough times, you kind of really figure out who you are because then you figure out like when you're in a situation that you're not happy with or like dealing with, you know, you're stuck in a situation.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of time all you're thinking is what you'd rather be doing.
100%.
And then I think
we have a crazy moment like that. I'm not going to tell that story, but that, yeah.
But when you find out that moment, you know what I mean? It's like, it's almost like cathartic where it's just like, you figure, because I think with music too, and this is something I stand by, is that you have to have some sort of understanding of your direction. Because if you don't know, it's very, very, music is a tough field to be in if you don't have some sort of idea of what the game plan is. You
Literally,
know?
because like, this is one of these, and I was just having this conversation with like Pace and you know, Frank,
of course.
Yeah, like just like talking about just how they're so like super, super, super highs and super, super, super lows in this industry and in this path. It's like you get something done, you're like, oh my God, I've been putting every ounce of sweat and blood and energy into making this moment come true for, I don't know, like months and years, whatever. And then it feels so great. And then days later, you're like, oh my God, the world is falling apart because literally like everything that I need to be happening right now is like so not happening. And I've got 30,000 things I need to get done and none of them are getting done and da-da-da-da, and you're doing all this stuff. It can just be like so chaotic, like all the way here to all the way there with like so fast.
Would you be willing to share a low and high moment you've had?
Oh yeah. I have like a couple low and high moments that like I kind of like remember, like I keep for myself.
And like what you learn from them too.
Yeah, man, like I just had this moment I remember, and this is kind of not exactly what you're asking. It's kind of like slightly different. But there was this moment like where I drove from this meeting that I had. It was like super important meeting down to my house where I was living in LA. And I just drove from like the nicest, like most ridiculous Beverly Hills mansion with like the water that they were drinking like cost more than like my existence at the time. You know what I mean? And I was just like, oh my God. Driving back. And at this time, I didn't realize until this day that I had this car accident during COVID, which, I mean, I did know that. And I didn't realize that they had fired my adjuster for my insurance during the process of like submitting my police report to the police. And then they didn't hire a new adjuster for my claim until after that period of time that the police report was supposed to get submit. So I didn't know, but my license ended up getting suspended because of that. And it just created all these problems. And so I'm driving on a suspended license from like the nicest place I've ever been like in my entire life, having like all of these like, you know, conversations about my career and all this stuff, to go back to like the like area of downtown LA where I was at. And I was just like, man, like I have so much of the stuff going for me, but none of the things that I need to have are firing on the right cylinders. And I just realized like in that moment, like that I could do it, but I had so much work to do. And it was just like all of I feel like I'm not doing the best job explaining it, but it was just like the circumstances of life being like, oh my gosh, like somehow like all of this crazy stuff, like life stuff that just like your license isn't right. And you know, you're like, yeah, I just had like this weird epiphany while everything was going on. I was just like, man, like this is like ground zero where I'm like, now there's like so much work to be done from here.
Yeah, but I think when you have moments like that, you start to understand, back to what I was saying about direction. You know what I mean? Like knowing where you need to go is like a huge thing. Otherwise, you're kind of just like floating through, just like kind of hoping for the next thing. But it's like, you know, that's why one thing about this 50 States project is, as huge of a project as it is, and it is a big project, and it's like, you know, there's definitely highs and lows within this project for sure. But within the project, like I know exactly what needs to get done.
The high of the project is just my involvement, clearly.
Well, let's talk about it because this Friday, Ready for Love comes out.
Oh, word?
And that samples Merry Go Round.
Are we doubled up, bro?
Yeah, dude.
I got 2 songs coming out on Friday, bro.
Oh, let's go, dude. So my song Ready for Love off the 50 States project for Kansas with the homie XV samples Cory's record, Merry Go Round.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I absolutely love Merry Go Round.
Thank you, bro.
I'd love to even just talk about that record before we get into like me sampling it.
Merry Go Round is a vibe, man. It's kind of about just, you know, literally the hook is, you know, I thought that you were ready for love, but you let it go now. Now I'm caught up in your circle like a merry-go-round.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, it's fickle, like this dating scene, especially in cities and stuff. And it's weird. You always end up like meeting people at their places where their people are, interacting with them and their people. And it's like, maybe you know some of their people, you're like halfway caught up, you know. We're at like the stage of life where it's like we're meeting people through like friends or whatever half the time. So it's like maybe you like know all their people. So it's just like the craziness that comes along with like trying to maybe invest your time with somebody, I guess.
Yeah. And also from another standpoint, to me, that record also like represents like you putting your flag down in Atlanta.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you moved from LA. We got to touch on this too. You moved from LA to Atlanta.
I did.
And when you did that, I feel like from my perspective as your homie, I feel like that's when I started seeing things fire on all cylinders and things start like falling into place where it seemed like a better fit for you.
100%. Like I feel like when I was in LA, I kind of got roped into the idea that like my writing was going to get me to a point where I was going to be able to do the artist stuff that I wanted to do. And I just kept putting a lot of my artist stuff on the back burner because I was convincing myself and letting people convince me that that was what I was supposed to be doing. And when I went to Atlanta, you know, I had people focused on making my dreams kind of come true. That sounds kind of silly, but it's real.
No, I know what you're saying. Is that
the stuff?
Yeah.
That's really it. It's like now I have people who, you know, that's the focus. Like,
yeah,
it's hard. Like, man, like I
don't
want to knock anybody who's out here like who doesn't know producers and is struggling to get, you know, solid production that's based around the kind of music they want to make. But it's like, man, like sometimes like YouTube beats and stuff is like. You don't get to tell the dude like, hey, do this, do that. You don't get to make it the same level of yours. Maybe somebody else has that. Like, I'd prefer to have somebody make me beats. Like I'm not really like excited to go to YouTube to like look for a beat. Like
you want to make an original song.
Yeah, I want to make an original song. I want somebody who's gonna come and lock in with me to do that, you know, and who's gonna be excited to be a part of that process. And I think especially as like a new artist, sometimes it's hard to not be discouraged by the fact that like, you know, this is a business, you know what I mean? And sometimes people just don't have the time or to work with you.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you're in music, you have to treat it like a business. I've probably said that on
you have to
all podcast episodes. Like if you've been listening to the pod and like are not in music and not treating it like a business, if you want to do it as a career, yeah, you are bugging. You know what I mean? Because I think having good music is just like, I'd say like a quarter of the battle, dude.
Totally.
Like, the other 75% is like making sure everything else is lined up, having like, you know, a good team in place. If you're not doing it yourself, a good team in place to like make sure you can create a quality product. You know, the content that goes along with like promoting your music, having all your business set up where, you know, you're collecting your master royalties through DistroKid. Go to www.distrokid.com/VIP/Mike Squires to save 30% on your DistroKid membership for the first year. Collecting your publishing royalties, like from
dude, my distribution is gonna come after you for this, bro. No, I'm just kidding.
But I want to talk to you. So
I'm gonna sick them on you, bro.
But you know,
you better not run any of my joints on this, bro. I'm gonna charge you. I'm just kidding.
I'm kind of getting scatterbrained, but there's a couple conversations I want to have, and none of them are gonna align with each other.
Okay.
We're just gonna run through them. How it's just going to happen. So let's get back to the sample, right? So I sampled Merry-Go-Round.
Yes.
I reach out. I love the record.
Thank you.
To the point where I'm like, yo, Cory, can I sample this?
Yes.
And you're like, that'll be $10,000. I'm like, yo, can you please like cut it down just like a little bit? You're like, all right, dude. I'll fucking just this one will let it slide, but the next one 20. I was like, okay, dude.
Yeah, solid.
So I sample Merry-Go-Round. You know, I send it out to XV. We wait a little bit, not terribly long, not terribly long. Get the record, get it done, put it out. Well, by the time people watch this, it'll be out. But as we sit here in real time, it's not out. All right, moving on. I want to pull to Shrimp Water, dude.
Oh, Lord.
That's what I'm saying. I told you this was just not going to like to jump from sampling.
I hear you.
Can you explain the story of Shrimp Water? Because it's an important, this might be our funniest story.
I think this is like one of the silliest Mike Squires moments I've ever happened to witness.
It's a crazy one, and you're the only one to like. I don't talk about this story.
Oh my gosh! So Shrimp Water, this wonderful moment. This is during that.
I think it is.
This is during that concert time, right?
Yeah. We also just need to let's keep it on Shrimp Water, but I also need to mention that like, so we did the Flo R show, we do the music video, we're with Vanilla Ice the next day.
Oh yeah,
we're with Vanilla Ice. So it's like somewhere in that.
Yeah, it's somewhere in that window of like all that. And what did you have, like something in the fridge
or freezer?
In the freezer, and we were like pulling out some frozen something from the freezer, whatever, and we go on with our day, and then the next day we're like sitting in the studio working on some song. It might have been Constellations. No,
it wouldn't, because Constellations
we already
was out.
did that song.
Yeah, it's probably some other song that just never saw the light of day.
We have some fire records that haven't seen life, but we're working on something, and I just hear Mike. And I'm like, ooh, like this is not good. And Sarah is like the sweetest, most like lovely person in the entire world, but I can just hear in her voice that
it's rare that she's frustrated at me at the capacity that we heard.
I could hear just like she sounded so stressed too. So I was like, oh my gosh, like what is going on right now? And she's like, I need you to like come over here like right now. And I was like, oh my God. And Mike comes back in the room after going out to talk to her, and he's like, dude,
so you gotta come check this. I think
you gotta come look at this, bro. And he's like, so like, remember the other day when we were like going through like the freezer and there was like that big bag of shrimp? And he shows me in Sarah's cup, and it's just a shrimp in a bunch of ice because, like, the frozen shrimp that was in the freezer somehow got put in her cup with a handful of ice and proceeded to thaw out and then just smell like shrimp, like gnarly. And then she drank like the bottom of her water bottle with like a little bit of the shrimp water left.
I think the shrimp actually clogged the straw.
Yeah. Woo!
And she was like pretty. She was pretty deep into like finishing the water, but that's not even the funniest thing that you said is I was like, I'm sitting with Sarah and I'm like, yo, dude, there's a shrimp in the water. And you're like, isn't that their whole thing? Sarah like rolled her eyes, dude. But bro, that was like one of the funniest.
She didn't think it was that funny at the time, but
dude, I had me weak, dude. But,
dude, I like feel responsible for like bringing comedy to moments that are like not that funny, and sometimes it's great and it's like amazing relief, and sometimes it's just like really insensitive.
Dude, that felt like a comedy episode of like a show, but like that would be like the moment. It's like, isn't that their whole thing?
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
Commercial break.
It was giving Larry David like a little bit.
Yeah, no, that definitely like shrimp water does sound like a Curb episode that way.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Let's pull it back to some of your music, dude.
Yeah.
Let's talk Cherry Tree.
Cherry Tree.
Let's talk the song, the meaning of the song, and I also want to talk about the video too.
Oh yeah, so the song, it was like actually like a really crazy time because my family was moving from, the dorm that we had lived in, or no, we were living now, not in the dorm, but on campus housing of Milton Academy still. And now we were moving to Natick, and the house that my parents live in now, the people who were living there didn't have a new place to live yet and didn't really have like, I don't know if they didn't have the means or didn't want to leave yet, and they were trying to stay in the house like as long as they could. And we were trying to be respectful of their situation. So we were staying with my grandmother for a pretty extended period of time, and this is right after my senior year of high school. And my senior year of high school was when my grandfather passed away. My grandfather and I were really close, and I took care of him while he was sick for a long time. And he just gave me like a lot of like growing up advice. And yeah, we were really close. So when he passed away, his loss was like super, super tough for me. And then we were kind of staying around the house, and it was just like crazy to be in the house all the time. And one of his... before he was starting to get really sick, there was this chair, it was like a chair that like leaned back like a recliner, like a lazy boy, but it also like stood up, so it could like it was like for assisting, like helping you stand up out of a chair. And we had picked up this chair, and I just had this like ominous feeling because the guy that we had picked the chair up from was it was a friend of my grandfather's who I'd visited. We had talked about playing guitar and all this different stuff, and then he passed away. And then we picked up the chair, and I brought it to my grandfather's house, and I was just like, this is just going to repeat itself. Like, this cycle is going to repeat now. And inevitably it did. And then I brought the chair back for another person. And that whole thing is really what made me write Cherry Tree. Which was like the perspective of like some of those conversations I had with both my grandfather and some of his friends and like the older people that I was spending time with, honestly, like as they were kind of, as morbid as it sounds, kind of like preparing to die. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was kind of a song about, the lessons that as a younger person we get from those older mentors in those positions, and what those older mentors get from us, just as far as like living through you and seeing like the joy, and like that's your kin, so like you get to like, you did that, he brought me here. So it was just like that whole thing of giving to him and him giving to me knowledge, and that's what that whole song's about. So it was super important to me.
Yeah, how do you channel like a record like that? You know, because something
I was
like
literally I was living there at my grandmother's house during this period of time that we're moving out to Natick.
so the energy was just
And
kind
I wrote it on my grandmother's nylon string guitar. That's
Oh,
like my
wow.
actual grandmother's. And I sat, there's like these little, like stone cement kind of like old stairs, like super steep staircase that kind of like runs down the back of this hill. And then there's this little pool. And I was sitting on these stairs back behind my grandmother's house with her guitar at like 2:30 in the morning because I couldn't sleep. And I wrote the whole song just like right there.
What's some advice that your grandfather gave to you?
It's like the last thing he ever said to me. I was playing when he was about to pass away, he was on dialysis. So they took him off dialysis. When you do that, you know that's the end. Like when you take somebody off dialysis, it's kind of like pulling the plug because eventually they'll just kind of like, not be super coherent anymore. And I was playing a song while my whole family had gathered, and I would always do this. I would bring my guitar and I would play in the hospital. And he was like, "You're not good enough yet." But if you knew my grandfather, it sounds like kind of negative, but it was like my grandfather would never tell you could do something that you couldn't do. He was like the head of the Heart and Lung Association, a Harvard professor, like a world-renowned doctor, the first American, I think, potentially inside the Forbidden City in China, because he was like a doctor to one of the people there. And like, I don't know, he's done like all this crazy stuff, so him doing that was kind of like, it was pretty cool, because it was like, before I had made the decision that music was going to be the thing that I was going to do, this was like still my senior year of high school. But it was like, I thought about that for a while, and I was like, he thought I could do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I guess that's not a piece of advice, I guess, but it was like kind of it was like a something to take with me for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad he threw in the yet though. The yet was
it was
huge.
like, it was clearly, but like if you had he had like a smirk on his face as he said it. Like he could tell it was, I understood it. Like it was, we had a pretty close bond. So he never would try and say something discouraging. Like he would have, you know what I mean?
But yeah, the yet feels very like
it was like a promising.
Yeah, it was like you're on the right path, kind of yet.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like you just got to.
And
he
wasn't like you're not good enough to like sing for me right now. It was like you're not good enough to be Justin Bieber or whatever yet. You're not. Keep going. I see it as I never saw it as like a negative thing. But yeah.
No, that's good. I think that's like a good memory too. And like to me, moments like that, like if I had a moment like that, it would keep me to keep going. I guess I kind of do have a moment like that. I'm not gonna share my moment because it's just like we don't. You know what I mean? But I want to keep it pushing because what's Cory's message to the world?
My message to the world. I think my message to the world is really that, like, it's not that you get to do whatever you want, but it's that you can do whatever you want. What you choose to do is what you choose to do. Like, you can do that thing that you don't think you can do.
Dude, trust me. I know, dude. That's my entire dude. I had Michael Manelli on recently, and I don't know if you feel this way. I know that he feels this way, and I know I feel this way, but I'd rather be dead than do anything besides something creative, dude.
100%.
I know that sounds so dramatic. Like,
nah, real talk.
But like, if I had to choose the reality of like doing something that I just like hate day after day after day.
Oh, I've done it.
I've been there too, briefly, thankfully. That was brief, but if I had to do it every single day, like I might as well be dead.
Literally, like you've given up the thing that you want to do already. Now you're just doing something for somebody else.
Yeah. What keeps you motivated, Cory?
What keeps me motivated is, man, especially like I have such a important relationship with my family. Being away from my family is so motivating. It sounds crazy, like being near my family, obviously, they motivate me too, and they give me energy all the time. But like just the thought that I'm like, yeah, I'm out here to pursue my thing, and it means that I don't get to sit here and watch the Celtics game tonight with my dad. Or I don't get to, you know, sing somewhere where my grandparents can show up all the time and come watch me. You know, like that type of thing is like really motivating to me.
It's the sacrifice.
The sacrifice, yeah.
Because basically, just from my understanding, because you don't have those things in your life, you better be using your time pretty good because I'm sacrificing that to do this.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know, just realizing like, again, like you can do whatever you want. And I'm doing what I want. So I better do every bit of what I want. You know what I mean? Like I better go do it then.
What do you see for yourself?
I've always seen myself as somebody who's going to go tour the world and sing my songs as a storyteller and do that. You know, I really, ever since I heard like real storytelling R&B singers, I was like, wow, like what better way to you know, put my life experiences into a little collage for us to be the same in this moment. You know, like it just became my favorite addiction. It was like, I need to now make this thing so we can all be on the same page for half a second. It's just like so much of the time that we have, I feel like we end up somehow like separating ourselves or like creating some thing that makes my existence just a little different than your existence, you know? So like maybe we're not quite the same, but it's just like those moments where you feel like, hey, like, no, like we're all here. You're here, I'm here, and we're getting to enjoy this, and we get to go about this together and like do the things that we want to do. Is like that realization is that's that breath of fresh air, you know?
Yeah. What do you think takes you to the next level?
I think just hyper consistency with like my releasing and content, because I released my EP and now I've got a couple songs that I've dropped since I moved to Atlanta, but I haven't been consistent about, you know, releasing music or really, you know, providing the giving it a world, you know, letting people know who I am, you know. I think one of the most interesting things that I ever heard somebody say about like this music journey as an artist is Erykah Badu was like, yeah, like I can't write a song like that I like every day, because if I didn't do anything between now and the last time I wrote a song, what do I have to write about? Like as an artist, you have to experience so that you can like give somebody something that they want. Like I could tell you stories about my life all the time, but the goal isn't for me to tell you a story about my life. The goal is to like frame this perspective and have it mean something, you know, like from the experiences that I have. And, you know, like you want it to have a moral that the takeaway is like positive and, you know, it is good for humanity.
And something people can relate to.
Yeah, something people can relate to and that can uplift you, you know, like something that you can listen to and be like, wow, like me and my person, whoever they may be, we're driving down the beach listening to this and now it's ingrained in this part of my brain to this song, you know, like
yeah. No, I think that's great, Cory. I want to take it to the end zone. So if people want to find you, listen to your music, where can they find you?
Cory Hales Music. That's my everything. Got it on at Cory Hales Music on Instagram. CoryHalesMusic@gmail.com if you want to email me.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Pretty serious.
Everyone should just go email Cory. Like, if you listen to this right now.
If you're not blowing up my email, you're doing the wrong thing.
Have you seen Baby Reindeer?
What?
All right, we'll keep it pushing the comment section. The comment section. If you've seen it,
am I getting roasted right now in the comments?
Oh, no.
Oh.
Watch Baby Reindeer, and then we'll tap back into this.
Okay.
Cory,
somebody put an F in the chat for Mike.
Cory, thanks for coming on the Mike Squires and Friends podcast.
100%.
It's
been literally amazing.
It's been a good one. I think we covered everything. I feel like your story was told great. I think people are going to take a lot away from it. You dropped some gems. Got some really good stories. I like the LA story. People are going to like. That's one of my favorites. Shrimp Water's a classic.
Shrimp Water's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My guy.
Also, like.
Oh, wait. We can't. We were talking. Also, like.
This windbreaker is perfect.
Let's go. Thank you, Cory, for coming on the podcast.
Of course. I love you, Mike.
Love you too. I want to share with you guys my thought of the day. And my thought of the day is this. Sometimes you just need to get up and go. As you saw, Cory got up, drove to LA however he got there. Listen. But you just got to make it happen. You can't wait for opportunities to come to you. You got to go out and get them. And you got to believe before the world does.